Welcome back to the show. Everyone ready to go even deeper on the propaganda detection tool?
Definitely. I'm really excited to see how we can build on what we learned last time.
Me too. So much great feedback from all of you after that Decoded Influence episode.
It's awesome that everyone's so engaged with this topic
Yeah, it shows how much people care about understanding persuasive techniques.
and how to spot them in the wild.
For sure. So let's jump right into it. We've got a ton of expert suggestions to unpack.
Okay, first things first, the heuristic analysis module.
Right. That's the heart of the tool where it actually identifies the persuasive language.
Exactly. And the experts had some brilliant ideas for making it even more powerful.
I'm all ears. What kind of upgrades are we talking about?
Well, they're suggesting we beef up the heuristics for a few key areas, like those embedded commands we discussed.
Ah, yes, those sneaky little phrases that can slip right past our conscious radar.
Exactly. They can be so subtle, but they can have a huge impact on our thinking.
Totally. So how do we make the tool even better at catching them?
One idea is to have it look for indirect commands.
Indirect commands? Like what?
Think of phrases like, wouldn't it be great if you were, have you considered?
I see. They're not direct orders, but they definitely steer the listener in a certain direction
Exactly. It's like planting a seed in their mind.
and then watching it grow.
Right. And another area they suggested focusing on is temporal presuppositions.
Those were the ones that assume an action will happen in the future, weren't they?
Yep. Like before you decide or after you succeed.
It's like they're pre-programming our expectations without us even realizing it.
Precisely. And the updated tool is being fine-tuned to pick up on these subtle cues.
That's awesome. But I also remember the experts cautioning that context is key.
Oh, absolutely. Just because a phrase contains a certain linguistic pattern doesn't automatically make it propaganda.
Right. What might sound manipulative in one situation could be perfectly normal in another.
Exactly. Like imagine a fitness instructor saying, "You've got this" during a workout,
True, that's technically a command, but it's meant to be encouraging.
right? The real challenge is teaching the tool to differentiate between these nuanced situations.
I can imagine. It's a pretty tall order.
It is, but the experts have some clever solutions up their sleeves.
Like what?
One of the big advancements is something called coreference resolution.
Coreference resolution. Now that sounds complicated.
It's actually not as complex as it sounds. It basically helps the tool analyze relationships between words and phrases across an entire document.
So it's not just looking at individual words or sentences in isolation.
Exactly. It's taking into account the bigger picture.
So it's like the tool is learning to read between the lines.
You could say that it's about understanding the true meaning of a text, not just the surface level stuff.
That makes a lot of sense, especially when you're dealing with things like satire or irony.
Right. The tool needs to be able to tell when a seemingly persuasive phrase is actually meant to be humorous or critical.
Okay, so coreference resolution helps the tool understand context. But what about the fact that not all persuasive techniques are created equal?
You're hitting on another key improvement, the scoring and classification system.
Right. Not every persuasive technique should carry the same weight.
Exactly. Some are more potent than others. And the updated tool takes that into account.
So how does it do that?
They've implemented something called weighted scoring.
Weighted scoring meaning.
Different persuasive techniques are assigned different levels of importance based on their potential impact.
So it's not just a simple checklist anymore. It's a more nuanced system.
Precisely. Think of it like a dashboard where you can adjust sliders to control how much weight each technique gets in the overall score.
Interesting. So you could prioritize certain types of persuasion over others?
Exactly, depending on your specific concerns or goals.
That's cool. It really puts the user in control.
It does, but it also introduces another layer of complexity.
How so?
We have to be really careful about accounting for individual biases.
Ah, I see. The tool itself could reflect the biases of the people who created it or the people who are using it
Exactly. That's why rigorous testing and validation are so important.
to make sure the tool is as objective and unbiased as possible.
Right. They're creating massive data sets with diverse examples of persuasive language to train the tool.
So they're basically feeding the tool a balanced diet of persuasive techniques.
Yeah, from all across the spectrum.
Okay, I'm starting to get a sense of how much work is going into refining this tool,
It's a constant process of learning and improvement.
but it sounds like they're on the right track.
I think so. The results have been really promising so far.
Well, this is all very fascinating from a technical standpoint, but I'm a visual person. Tell me, what kind of visual enhancements can we expect?
Oh, you're going to love this. They're developing an interactive dashboard that visually represents the persuasive techniques used in a text.
Ooh, a visual dashboard. I like where this is going.
Picture this, a heat map that visually highlights the hotspots of persuasion in a text.
Wait, so you can actually see where the most persuasive techniques are clustered?
Exactly. You'd see at a glance which parts of the text are trying to influence you the most.
Now that is cool. That would be incredibly useful.
And it gets even better. They're also working on reports that can compare multiple documents side by side.
Well, hold on. You could compare how different sources use persuasion?
Exactly. You could see if certain outlets are more prone to emotional appeals or if certain political figures rely heavily on specific tactics,
That would be so insightful. You could really start to see patterns emerge.
and understand how different players use persuasion to achieve their goals.
This is blowing my mind. I'm already thinking of all the ways I could use this tool.
Me too. The possibilities are endless.
Okay, so we've talked about the analysis modules, the scoring system, and the visuals. But what about user feedback?
That's crucial. The developers don't want this to be a black box that just spits out judgments.
Right, they want it to be a collaborative effort.
Exactly, where user input helps the tool become even smarter and more accurate over time.
It's like a community of critical thinkers working together.
I love that analogy.
And speaking of community, I'm curious to hear how they're handling ethical considerations.
That's a great question and a really important one.
Any tool that analyzes language has the potential to be misused,
Right. So they're building in safeguards from the ground up.
such as...
Well, for starters, they're incorporating bias detection algorithms.
So it's like a tool to detect bias within a tool that detects bias.
Exactly. It's all about checks and balances.
I like it. What else do they do?
They're also committed to transparency.
Transparency. How so?
They're creating detailed reports that explain exactly how the tool works, what data it uses, and how decisions are made.
So people can understand the logic behind the analysis.
Yes. And hold the tool accountable.
That's awesome. It sounds like they're really taking this seriously.
They are. They understand the power of this tool and the responsibility that comes with it.
Okay, I have to say I'm super impressed with all these enhancements. It's like they've thought of everything.
They've put a lot of thought into it, that's for sure.
But enough talk. Let's see this tool in action.
I'm game. What do you have in mind?
How do we analyze a political speech?
Okay, let's do it.
Imagine a politician giving a rousing speech about, say, a new healthcare policy.
All right, I'm picturing it.
And they step up to the podium and begin with, "My fellow citizens, we stand at a crossroads. Our healthcare system is broken, but together we can build a healthier future."
Okay, I'm already seeing red flags.
Me too. That opening line is packed with persuasive techniques.
It sure is. Let's break it down. First off, we've got that crossroads metaphor.
Yeah, it creates a sense of urgency, like we're at a critical turning point.
Exactly. And broken. Well, that's pretty loaded language right there.
It definitely evokes a negative emotion. Makes you feel like things are really bad.
Right. And then there's that together we can bit.
Ah, yes. Another one of those indirect commands.
It subtly implies that the listener is part of the solution.
Very clever. Now, let's say the speech goes on to describe the current state of healthcare.
Okay, I'm listening.
And the politician uses phrases like skyrocketing costs and bureaucratic nightmares,
Classic reframing.
right? They're painting a very negative picture of the status quo.
Making their proposed solution seem even more appealing by comparison.
It's like they're creating a problem and then offering themselves as the savior.
Exactly, and the tool would definitely pick up on that.
It would flag those phrases as attempts to manipulate our perceptions.
And our emotions, too.
So the tool isn't just identifying the persuasive techniques, it's also helping us understand the intent behind them.
Right, it's about seeing the bigger picture.
Okay, so the politician has set the stage. Now they're ready to unveil their brilliant plan.
All right, let's hear it.
They start using phrases like affordable care for all and putting patients first.
Big O anchoring and value appeals.
Break it down for me.
Those phrases become anchors, simple positive concepts that people are naturally drawn to.
Affordable care, who doesn't want that?
And patients first, it appeals to our sense of fairness and compassion.
Hard to argue with that. So the speaker's basically framing their plan in a way that makes it seem irresistible.
Exactly. They're aligning it with our values.
Now, what if they throw in a personal anecdote? Maybe a story about someone who struggled to afford medication.
Ah, the power of storytelling.
Right. It's not just about facts and figures. It's about connecting with people on an emotional level.
And the tool would analyze the language of that anecdote, looking for emotional cues and value appeals.
So it's not just about the content of the story, but also how the story is being told.
Exactly. The framing is everything.
Okay, so we're nearing the end of the speech. What's the politician's closing move?
Let's find out.
They use phrases like, "the time to act is now," and "together we can build a healthier future."
Calls to action designed to create a sense of urgency and inspire people to get on board.
And the crowd goes wild.
Standing ovation.
So if we were to run this entire speech through the propaganda detection tool, what would we see?
You'd see all those key phrases we discussed highlighted with explanations of the persuasive techniques being used. You'd also get an overall persuasion score broken down by category, like emotional appeals, logical arguments, and calls to action.
So it's like a detailed map of the persuasive landscape of the speech.
Precisely. It shows you exactly how the speaker is trying to influence you.
Wow, this is amazing. I'm already thinking of all the ways this tool could be used.
Me too. It has the potential to really change the way we consume information.
Okay, so we've talked about the analysis module, the scoring system, the visuals, and how it all comes together in a real-world scenario.
We've covered a lot of ground.
But there's still more, right? What about the future of the tool? What kind of upgrades are in the pipeline?
Oh, they've got some really exciting ideas brewing.
Like what?
One that's gaining a lot of traction is integrating the tool with fact-checking platforms.
Wait a minute, you mean it wouldn't just flag persuasive language, but it could also check the accuracy of the claims being made?
Exactly. It would be like having a built-in lie detector.
That's incredible. You could instantly see if what you're reading is true or not.
It would be a game changer, for sure, especially in today's world where misinformation is rampant.
Okay, that's seriously cool, but it gets even better, right?
Oh, yeah. They're also looking into collaborating with advanced AI models like GPT-4.
GPT-4, hold on. Isn't that the one that can write Shakespearean sonnets and compose symphonies?
That's the one.
What does that have to do with propaganda detection?
Well, GPT-4 and similar models are incredibly good at understanding and generating human language.
I mean, I've heard it's pretty impressive. But how would it help with this tool?
It could be used to suggest new heuristics. As persuasive techniques evolve, GPT-4 could help the tool stay ahead of the curve.
So it's like having an AI apprentice constantly learning and adapting.
Exactly. It's mind-blowing stuff.
It really is. I have to say this entire deep dive has been a real eye-opener. We've gone from decoding embedded commands to envisioning a future where AI helps us become more discerning consumers of information.
It's been quite a journey, and I think it highlights how important it is to be aware of the persuasive forces at play in our world.
Absolutely, we're bombarded with messages all day long trying to influence our thoughts and actions. It's more important than ever to be able to critically evaluate those messages and make informed decisions.
And that's exactly what the propaganda detection tool empowers us to do. It gives us the tools we need to see through the smoke and mirrors and understand the true meaning behind the words.
So to everyone listening out there, remember this: the next time you encounter a persuasive message, whether it's a political speech, an advertisement, or even a casual conversation, take a moment to pause and ask yourself, what techniques are being used here? How is language being used to shape my thoughts and actions?
Those are powerful questions. And remember, tools like the propaganda detection tool can help us find the answers. They can be our allies in the fight against manipulation and misinformation.
Well said. And on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive. A huge thank you to all the experts who shared their insights and to all of you for joining us on this fascinating exploration. Don't forget to check out the show notes for links to all the research and resources we discussed.
And as you go about your day, keep this question in mind. What does it mean to live in a world where persuasion is increasingly sophisticated? How can we use tools like the propaganda detection tool to become more critical thinkers and informed citizens?
That's a question worth pondering. Until next time, stay curious, stay vigilant, and keep those minds sharp. Okay, so that's fact-checking. What else is on the horizon?
Well, they're also exploring ways to make the tool even more proactive.
Proactive, how so?
Right now, it's mostly reactive. You feed it a text and it analyzes it.
Yeah.
But what if it could actually help us prevent propaganda from taking root in the first place?
Now you're talking. That would be amazing. But how would that even work?
One idea is to develop educational resources based on the tool's insights.
Educational resources. Like what?
Think of interactive tutorials or even games that teach people how to spot persuasive techniques.
That's a great idea, especially for younger generations who are growing up in this hyper-connected world.
Exactly. It's about equipping them with the critical thinking skills they need to navigate the digital landscape.
I love it. It's like giving them a mental toolkit for self-defense against manipulation.
And another idea is to create a community forum where people can share examples of propaganda they've encountered.
Ooh, like a crowdsourced database of persuasive techniques.
Exactly. Users could submit examples, the tool would analyze them, and then everyone could learn from each other's experiences.
That would be so powerful. It would turn the tool into a collaborative learning platform.
And it would help us stay ahead of the curve as new persuasive techniques emerge.
I'm really excited about the future of this tool. It feels like we're just scratching the surface of what's possible.
Me too. It has the potential to make a real difference in the fight against misinformation and manipulation.
It's about empowering people to think for themselves.
Exactly, to question everything and be critical consumers of information.
Well said. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive.
Agreed.
It's been an incredible journey exploring the world of propaganda detection.
And I have to say, I'm feeling pretty optimistic about the future.
Me too. With tools like this at our disposal, we have a fighting chance of staying ahead of the manipulators.
And of building a more informed and resilient society.
To all of you listening out there, keep those minds sharp and never stop questioning. Remember, knowledge is power, and the ability to decode persuasion is the ultimate form of self-defense.
Couldn't said it better myself.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.